Welcome to the reading of the Sabbath School lesson for the second quarter of 2022. Welcome to Lesson 4 from the series on Genesis. It's titled The Flood, ready for teaching on April 23, and my name is Percy Harrold. Friday, April 22. A comparison between the mentality and the behaviour of the people and the state of the world before the flood and that of the people in our days is particularly instructive. To be sure, human wickedness is not a new phenomenon. Look at the parallels between their time and ours, and we have a quote here from Patriarchs and Prophets, pages 101 and 102. The sins that called for vengeance upon the antediluvian world exist today. The fear of God is banished from the hearts of men, and his law is treated with indifference and contempt. The intense worldliness of that generation is equalled by that of the generation now living. God did not condemn the antediluvians for eating and drinking. Their sin consisted in taking these gifts without gratitude to the giver, and debasing themselves by indulging appetite without restraint. It was lawful for them to marry. Marriage was in God's order. It was one of the first institutions which he established. He gave special directions concerning this ordinance, clothing it with sanctity and beauty. But these directions were forgotten, and marriage was perverted and made to minister to passion. A similar condition of things exists now. That which is lawful in itself is carried to excess. Fraud and bribery and theft stalk unrebuked in high places and in low. The issues of the press teem with records of murder. The spirit of anarchy is permeating all nations, and the outbreaks that from time to time excite the horror of the world are but indications of the pent-up fires of passion and lawlessness that, having once escaped control, will fill the earth with woe and desolation. The picture which inspiration has given of the antediluvian world represents too truly the condition in which modern society is fast hastening. Even now, in the present century, and in professedly Christian lands, there are crimes daily perpetrated as black and terrible as those for which the old world sinners were destroyed. End of quote. And that brings us to our two discussion questions for this week. 1. What are the common characteristics of the pre-flood society and ours? What do these common characteristics teach us about God's grace, that despite all this, he loves the world and is still seeking to save whom he can? And 2. Some people argue that Noah's flood was only a local event. What is wrong with that idea? If this were true, why would every local flood and every rainbow make God a liar? Inside Story. Our mission story this week is titled Faithful Grandparents, and it's by Andrew McChesney. In the evening, after it was too dark to work in the maize field, the Reineke family gathered around a large kitchen table for supper in their small farmhouse in central South Africa. Father, mother, and their 7 boys and 4 girls ate homegrown food every evening. Maize porridge along with potatoes, pumpkin and meat. Afterward, the children cleared away the dishes and Father opened his Dutch Bible for family worship. On this particular evening, Father opened the Bible to Exodus chapter 20 and read, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labour and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work." Exodus 20 verses 8 to 10. "Listen," Father said, puzzled. "It says here, 6 days you shall labour, but on the 7th day you shall rest." The idea of resting on the 7th day was new to him. He and his family had always observed the first day, Sunday, as the Sabbath, but the Bible said otherwise. Father made a note in the margin of his Bible. Beside the words, 6 days you shall labour, he wrote, plough time. Beside the words, on the 7th day you shall rest, he wrote, rest time. The matter was clear to him. His family started keeping the 7th day Sabbath. Families took notice on the neighbouring farms, and soon 3 of them also were keeping the Sabbath. Time passed, and a Seventh-day Adventist literature evangelist stopped by the farm and sold Father a little Dutch-language book titled God's Covenant with Man. Through the book, Father and Mother learned about the Seventh-day Adventist Church for the first time. They understood that other people also worshipped on the seventh-day Sabbath. While there is no historical record of Father and Mother joining the Seventh-day Adventist Church, 4 of their 11 children became Adventists. One of their grandsons is Gideon Reinecke, a pastor who helps oversee mission work in South Africa and 14 other countries as Executive Secretary of the Southern Africa Indian Ocean Division. Gideon said he owes his Adventist heritage to faithful grandparents who simply read the Bible and obeyed it in the 1920s. We pray that by telling this story from generation to generation, it will yield results and bring more people to Jesus Christ, he said. This quarter's 13th Sabbath offering will help spread the gospel in Gideon Reinecke's home Southern Africa Indian Ocean Division. Thank you for planning a generous offering. This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind, and It Is Written. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. Remember, God is always faithful.